Welcome to Fierce and Fearless, the go-to podcast for the modern unstoppable woman. We are your hosts, and I'm Sonali Singh, a fitness enthusiast, a fierce entrepreneur, and the founder of Feed Smart.
And I'm Zoe Modgill, your guide to all things fitness, nutrition, and beyond, encouraging strength in every aspect of life.
Together, we're here to explore the world and the spectrum of womanhood, motherhood, careers, fitness, nutrition, and even mental health.
We're here not just to share insights, but to debunk myths and offer tangible tips that empower you to lead a life that's both dynamic and balanced.
So get ready to explore new perspectives.
Let's dive in.
Hello, welcome everyone. This is episode 9 of Fierce and Fearless. I'm Sonali, your co-host, and today we're talking about marriage, and especially marriage after kids. What happens to it, and how do you navigate, and how do you come out stronger as a couple?
And I'm Zoe, and will be adding my own, I would like to say, 20 years of experience to this entire little chat that we're going to have, Sonali, because I know that you have been in your relationship for quite a while as well. So we're excited to get into some details, and this is probably one of those episodes where I feel like I just probably have a lot of deep stuff to delve into, and I'm just going to let it flow. We have enough experience to share.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've also noticed, especially when thinking about this episode, that marriages have like phases, right? So there's this whole pre-marriage, which is your courtship, however long that is. Then you get
Yours
married.
Yours is a cute 1 year, by the way.
Mine cute was 1 year.
A very long 9 years.
Yes. Yeah. And you think you know, and that's the person you are going to, be, and it's all very pretty. And then you get married, and then you have another, I think, a year, 2 years, which is this honeymoon period, which is where basically all movies stop. That's it. That is why you look up to this getting married and settling down concept. And then it's a lot of fun. And I think what mine lasted for about a year and a half. We had a great time. We traveled, we cooked, we drank a lot of wine, and we fattened up as well.
Yeah.
It's its own phase. And then you start settling in, like just sharing space with someone else, establishing individual yet connected routines. Yeah. I think that took about almost 2 to 2.5 years. We took our time. A lot of people go straight into pregnancy after that. How about you? How was your run up to pregnancy?
I love hearing other people's love stories because I think that we have a different story and one that's not so common these days because like we met in school and we dated during school. We went to college in the same city. Then we were apart. So we did a lot of long distance, but we grew into the people we are together, which I think has definitely a very nice aspect to it because I know so many people who are even to this day and this age, trying to find partners. And it's not so easy when you're so set in your routine. And I think that we were together and learned to like work and build businesses and share space and stuff. We were doing a lot of that while we were in college and after. So when we moved in and lived together, it was actually quite an easy sort of transition. We didn't have, I would say, such a honeymoon period that, so to say, but from the aspect that we were doing a lot of that before marriage, like traveling and things like that, because we grew up together. Being together with somebody for a really long time, you have to try to make time for one another. I feel like we should definitely move straight into the topic of like kids. For you, was it something you guys planned together and wanted at the same time?
No. Like Shiva was literally a COVID baby. I wasn't very interested in having kids. I didn't have that inclination towards kids or becoming a mom. I was very like, I just want to be a hotshot career businesswoman. But Yadu wanted to be a father, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. COVID happened, so we decided we got some time. Let's do it. And I think it's the best thing. I'm very happy that COVID pushed me into being a mom. So we went in 4 years after our marriage. And that's a whole different time, like just going through pregnancy together reconnects people in a different way because at least your first child, I think, because it is momentous. There is a lot of specialness that goes on. And especially if you're on COVID where everything is so beautiful and there's no sound and the air is nice and pretty. So we had a great pregnancy, only to know that the next 2 years after that were just brutal. Nothing can prepare you for that. Nothing.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's actually, I think this day and age is so worth mentioning. I think about the impact I think COVID has had on so many relationships and
Yeah.
families. For some, it was like devastating, and for others, it was like a place where a lot of magical memories happen. A lot of time was
Mm.
spent together. Like, definitely from my side, like all of us together working from home, I was actually excited for us to be home and get to work and cook and whatever all the time together during that time.
Yeah.
And I got pregnant in the middle of the main start of COVID in 2021. So there was one wave of COVID where I was
Mm.
pregnant. And I think that was an opportunity for us as a family and my parents and everyone and all of us to live together under one roof and
Yeah.
enjoy each other's time. But I do strategically remember, and it's funny because I actually filmed Varun in the morning when, because I had a scheduled C-section, so we knew when we were going to become parents and what day. And the pregnancy had its, I feel like you touched on it, like when you're the apple of everyone's eye when you're pregnant. Are you okay? Can I do this? Can I get you that? Can I run here? I was just like, oh, this is great. Like where everyone's just like super, and your husband's extra lovey-dovey. I got so many foot massages. Oh, the best. And then I remember like videoing him and the night before, even though our whole family was living with us, and we were like, my God, this is like our last sort of meal as just the two of
Yeah.
us. And after this, we're always going to have like
Yes.
more chairs and stuff filled, and our dining table's going to get bigger, and funny conversation like that.
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah, we
thinking,
had those. We had those last
yeah,
meal and
I just
everything.
remember we don't really realize how much is going to change. But like you said, a whirlwind of change.
Yeah, it's crazy. My business partner Ashwin at that time told me, he literally made me stop working 6 weeks before, and he said, I want you to do nothing because you are not going to get to do nothing for a very long time. So just
Yeah.
switch off work and do nothing. I said, no, but what do I do with myself? He's like, I don't care. Sleep, do whatever you want to, but just do nothing, Sonali. You know?
Yeah.
And I really thank him for that because it was an interesting phase. But yeah, and I think next 2 years are the real testament to any marriage because they're so demanding. Nothing can prepare you for that, right? No matter how much people
Yeah.
tell you about their experiences, you're going to have your own unique experience starting from birth to the first 2 years. What got me through those first 2 years was, I would say, three things. One was, even though I expected, so I told Yadu that, listen, let's set our expectations. I was very clear that I'm not going to take on the entire burden of childcare. I'm not going to give up my career, and it has to be divided. He has to step up, otherwise, this shit is going to go south. I literally was very clear in that communication with him that this has to be a two-way street, especially because that's just the way it is. So we divide and rule. As part of that was, okay, you take care of this, I take care of this, and literally write it down. It helps instead of assuming, because I think a lot of our life is, oh, I assume that you would do this, or I assume that this would be in part of your to-do list. No, nothing works on assumptions. So just have it clearly written out, spoken out, whatever it is. And I also think that as first time moms, we're also very controlling of the fathers, right? And that is not cool. We have to let go and let them have their own journey, make their own mistakes, figure out their own parenting style. I've seen a lot of mothers who crack down on the father. It's really not
Yeah.
nice. So they are also a parent. They have to figure it out themselves. And they're coming from a very different angle, right? Where they haven't given birth. So they have to establish a relationship with this child from scratch.
Yeah.
And I think I really leaned into my parents. I literally thought that I could never stay with my parents again post marriage, but I think it was God sent to have 3 or 4 months with them. So if you
Yeah.
have that, the parents or the extended family, this is the right time to use them because they
Yeah.
really come in handy. So this is what sort of worked with us and got us through the first 2 years of having our first child. What about you? And you're still in it.
Yeah, I know. I'm back in it,
Yeah.
basically. I feel like for Varun and I, because again, we grew into the people we are very much alongside each other, and it's like hand in hand.
Hmm.
I think it's only today and in this day and age do we start talking about like writing down things or planning out things, or like things to achieve or do or plan, etc. Interestingly, this entire time till now, I've never really thought about it like that. And I think in many ways, I've taken for granted that we are in it when we've been in it, and whatever problem comes our way, we'll get through it. And we have. I think when two people can still some strange way make each other laugh and have a moment where they have a good time, or they can tease each other, although I get a lot more irritated than he does. I think it means that there is something. And for me, you have these groups of people where you tell everything to your group of friends or girlfriends or something. Like Varun is that girlfriend for me. I don't actually have that girlfriend either, that group.
Right.
I have a good solid group of people, who are around, but the person that I tell everything to is him.
Right.
It's been in the last 4 years, I think I have taken a lot of situations for granted. I do think that I was a very possessive mom, not from him directly, but more about I know better, or have you even done any reading would be my favorite.
The opposite
to
of me.
him.
I was like, oh, just do the reading and figure this shit out.
Yeah, I was like, have you done this reading? And when he hadn't, I would be quite taken back about it. I'll be like, then you don't have a say. Why should you have a say if you have no backing? So there's been enough conversation around that, issues that have come up. For instance, like Varun and I, we got 1 year into our marriage, a little dog for the two of us. I've had pets my whole life, and having a little pet dog was like a full-on responsibility. But it was very much, oh my God, the dog's sick, Zoe, what are you going to do? Oh my God, like I was always the person that was asked. And I also, was the person who, and even if I didn't respond to whatever it might be, I would look and be like, oh my God, that person's reaction, like i.e. Varun's, is just terrible.
Yeah.
That's just not how it should be. Like, it'd be quite judgy. So I don't know whether I gave that vibe off as like just knowing better, or do I actually know better? I don't know the bottom line. But I think even with like in the beginning, like you said, it's quite hard for husbands and fathers to instantly create that affection. If I like to say anything, Varun loves to wind up both my kids, like right now, and then leave me to pick up the pieces. It drives me insane as a concept. But I think he and I have just figured out various things about who we are, and that too as parents as well, because we've had that advantage maybe that we're used to operating like that. But hearing you say these 3 points is giving me a different thought process going forward, I feel.
Yeah. The thing is, I think what we need to acknowledge and accept is, as we discussed with our bodies in postpartum, right? It's a new you, right? There's a new person. Both of you physically, genetically, mentally change after having a child, right? And I would say 100% the father as well. I've seen it in Yadu, and it's amazing to see how your priorities change, your perspective line change.
What do you think changes in a man?
No, I think a large part of it is the fact that they have to provide for another human being, and from zero to education, right? That realization only kicks in for a lot of people post having a child. You take it easy until that kicks in. So that's a big realization. And
from like a monetary sense?
Yeah, there's a lot of monetary sense.
Yeah.
Huge monetary sense, because traditionally that's where the burden is, right? You provide for the family, and I as a woman take care of the family. So now suddenly there is that family. That person that you had to provide for, that you thought about but hadn't really thought about it, is suddenly here. And I think also with girls, maybe they get more sensitive, or they get a bit more cray-cray. Like Yadu is pedantic about Shivaya's education, like to a level where I was like, dude, we've got 5 years. She's in preschool. But he's on a different level. Like I've seen it in so many of my friends who are fathers and how they change. So there is that change that happens, right? So again, accepting that is also something that I don't think we do enough. That this whole relation, like you said, that is the last time the two of you are going to really have a meal together alone in peace. Yadu and I end up now, after Shivaya started going to school, we have lunch together because both are working from home. So we try to make sure we put our phones aside and we spend those 15 minutes and have lunch. That's it. That's that one meal we spend together. But a lot of parents don't. They don't get a meal together anymore without the child. So you got to build this shit in. You have to literally build it in, and you got to make time for your individual interests, right? You can't feel trapped, right? So if there's something that he enjoys doing, you got to let him do it and whatever. Like I've discovered a group that goes for daily hikes to the Aravlis on Sundays. So I was like, listen, I'm out on Sundays till 9 a.m. Okay, I'm going to figure this out. And I let him do what he likes to do. So you have to find that medium and give each other time to breathe and enjoy their time as a human, apart from a parent as well.
Yeah. Like me and Varun eat lunch and dinner together every day.
Right.
But how present are we in that moment is bizarre. Okay. And I think that this is something that many couples don't realize, and many people don't realize, forget even couples.
Right.
Okay? Like we just don't realize how distracted our minds are from like this the phone and working from home and being on call, like we are available all the time. So we are never really present with each other. Like I will be listening to messages or see Varun looking at a YouTube video while watching a movie, while having dinner, while emailing someone. We are never like completely present, and we eat every day together. I'm very like adamant about sitting at the table and eating as a family. I don't do it with the kids yet because our timings are so different, but I still like the idea of, oh, I never sit without being at the dining table, things like that. But again, being present, I think calls for a big bit of awareness about how we need to take our time to really be involved in each other, because we haven't been on a date in forever, like where it's just the two of us going out anywhere. So in the last 4 years, going on a holiday on just the two of us has not happened in the last 4 years. And a lot of these things I think happen, and you are longing to be this other person, and I'm not that person anymore. And I now have a different, I am in my mom era, and this is like me being available for my child at all times. And you forget that I think that the same attention is required in all aspects of life as well. And it's not easy when you're being a mom, because you are on call 24/7 as a mom. And I want to be. I like to be on 24/7 with my kids. I do. I want to make sure that no matter how hard and the meltdowns I have and how much I want to do so many things. Today is Zai's first day of play school, and me and Varun are like, oh no, we don't want it to grow up. We don't want it to go away. We don't want it to not be in the house for those 2 hours. This is the conversation that we're having, which is I think I suffer from major FOMO with my children.
Yeah.
I just don't want to miss out or not be present for something.
But totally the opposite.
Yeah. I think that's what's great, because I think there is no correct parenting. There is no correct marriage advice that we can give that is the right way to do things. But at the same time, I think being aware of all these different elements that come into our lives, people who, like, I don't live in a joint family. I live alone with my husband. I can have that freedom to execute how I want to run my house, be with my children, teach them things, have a relationship with my husband, work from home, the two of us, so we can be involved in lives. But like I said, being present is a very different ball game nowadays, where we're here, but are we really here? Is the question I think that a lot of us end up asking.
I think we spoke about this and we were going to touch a bit upon it, right? Affection, right? Let's not go into the existence or non-existence of sex lives, but let's just talk about physical affection. And
that shit changes. Post-marriage, post-wed, post like everything, post-children, so is another ball.
Yeah. But we still need to a certain level of physical affection that, you have with your partner, to know you're there as a partner to them as well.
Do you and Yadu like kiss and stuff in front of Shivaya?
No, we don't. Not for any reason. We've never been the type to kiss a lot in public, but we'd hold hands or we'd hug. But would we kiss? No.
Or those like casual side hugs, because that's what ends up happening with me and Varun, like so much, because we're just like friends or brother and sister grew up together for the last 20 years. You forget, right? This kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. It's very odd. For me, I think it's even something like just touching someone's shoulder when you come home from work or something.
It's like these small gestures that we're like, wow, we're still tempting to the other person.
Oh my God.
Like, oh my goodness, I know what you mean. Because I think we don't have to go into the details of having a sex life, but at the same time, I don't know whether it's appropriate to touch upon like feeling sexy in front of your husband at this point in my life, where 2 kids down, you don't feel that confident in your own body. You're battling how you look and feel. But it's interesting because I don't know whether you experience the same thing, but Varun is actually really, I'm lucky that way, but good at making me feel amazing how I am. He's never really, apart from what I come out wearing, I mean, like, how dare he have the choice to decide what weird clothes how funny I look today. And he'll be like, are you going to wear that? And I'm just like, huh? Nothing to do with my body shape, size, nothing like that. But just like my clothes, like my concept, like all this and that, which is so funny because I feel like it could be far worse. I think that's also shows, I don't know what relationships, how easily they can build. But I've definitely been looking all sorts of kinds, different hair colors and haircuts over the past 20 years with my husband. And honestly, if I was to give any couple any piece of advice or looking or finding, getting a partner, I think it's important to realize that it's the small things like being able to make each other laugh, sit in each other's company, do something fun together is important, but at the same time, you can lose that if you don't pay attention to it. And I think that is where I feel like I need to put in more effort, if I was to be honest.
Yeah. But I think it's also lifestyles, right? Adu and I are chalk and cheese in terms of personalities, but there's such interesting things that we are, the way we look at food and nutrition, exactly the same, right? So we align ourselves.
Yeah.
We both like to wake up early, go to sleep early. We're not like one is not a partying type and the other. That makes such a big difference, right? We both eat similar foods.
We should talk about this partying element and the social life element of how much that gets changed when you have kids, right?
Yeah, and we've evolved. We've evolved from being very much addicted to going out, partying, being social, dwindling down, then spending time with friends. And now he and I also, because we don't even eat dinner. We both finish by 5. We go to sleep by 10. We wake up around 6. And because we like this kind of lifestyle together, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Imagine if one did not.
Yeah.
And you would be smoking, drinking, wanting to have a drink. It'd be so hard for the other person to clean up and not be there. We both listen to meditative music at home and we enjoy it. Lifestyle is also very important, even if you don't end up doing a lot of things together, but you're okay to share a similar space.
Yeah. I think that's true for me and Varun as well. And it's also definitely something that I would love for people to be aware of, is that having kids is not to solve problems in a relationship.
Yeah.
There's a lot of families out there where they're just like, oh, when the kids come along, we'll be fine. Things will change, or it'll be easier, or we'll work things out. If there was any piece of advice that I would want to share with anyone, or that I've seen happen, is that being on the same page, because stuff changes so much when you have a kid, right? But having the same or similar values and ideas of what you said as a lifestyle, those are things to look out for in another person that you are going to then share a human with. Yeah. Because that human it's the responsibility bringing that human into the world. And I think that it's important that we mention that, because it brings me a little bit to the idea of what we show ourselves as, whether it's a couple or relationships. That's what our kids will pick up.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
They pick up the vibes of like how we deal with all of these things in our lives and in the early ages. Like we've touched upon this in our earlier episodes. Like literally between ages 1 to 5 is where your every emotion as a child and how you learn to deal with it is what you deal with it like in life later on.
Yeah, it's those 5 years, those years are so formative, because your parents are who you see day in, day out, right? You emulate them. And that was our first or second, I think, podcast. First one. And going back to that, like I've grown up with I've seen a very volatile relationship between my parents, but they made it through. There were parts where I thought they were not going to. And I've grown up with a lot of uneasiness and all of that. And that generation was very unaware of the effects it had on the effect of how they are with each other on their kids. However, I feel, and I like to believe that because we've seen and have to go through therapy to deal with all of that, right? We're very different in front of our kids. We want to show a lot more cohesiveness. And if we do get into an argument with our partner, we become aware of it very soon. At least Yadu and I correct each other and we're like, let's take this somewhere where Shivaya is not. And we do that regularly.
I find myself trying to do that as well. I'm definitely the kind of person, we are very much, we see it. And I think I've also come from a background of seeing a lot of stuff in front of me, but also feeling that I don't want to show a lot of that stuff going forward. Like that is happening. If it's going to happen, I'd rather take it somewhere where it can happen quietly, because I'm very much aware of how much somebody is watching and learning and emulating everything that we say and do. And that's what we are. We're their teachers and guide for now. And I'm very aware of transferring that kind of even energy.
Yeah,
like I don't want to, even energy. But at the same time, I'm also so conflicted because I'm reading so much lately also about how important it is actually to allow our children to actually see difficult situations also.
Yes,
you know,
that's very well said.
We're not there to always solve their problem. We're there to show them that what a problem can come and we can overcome it and we can go
exactly
through. It's a fine different contrast, because with Varun and I, like lately now, because Zai is so much more aware and he's watching and seeing, and there's been a few moments where we're having like a discussion that's become a little bit more heated. And he intervenes and seems to to distract us, which actually works for the better. But I actually feel like he notices that there's a change in our the way we're talking to each
Yeah.
other, and then we have to just tone it down. This is not the time. But I think it's important to do that, though. It's difficult. You have to know when things are going to erupt out of the window and cause a volcano, and if they are, then you need to back off quite before, because
Yeah.
I think allowing them to see that things can get uncomfortable. Or I was actually listening to somebody where, you can say like mom and papa have had a disagreement and we don't think about things the same way, but we will work it out later. And that's why we were talking loudly.
Yeah.
Like you can actually say this kind of stuff to your children from quite an early on age. It's crazy because I think it's a whole different topic, but also the amount of stuff that carries on in our lives, and whether it's work stress and people stress, it's so much to then add that layer of stress. What, our kids shouldn't see this, or
Yeah.
what are they going to see, or how do we not protect them from this world, which is so stimulated.
Yeah.
Dude, like our world is beyond stimulated,
Of course.
right? Parenting is tough, man.
Yeah.
And then also then your marriage is being judged on top of things, and you're just like, wow, how do the two walk hand in hand? It's not easy.
I agree.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've covered a really interesting topic. We've talked openly about our own marriages, what's the spiciness or the spiciness of it. I'll go into my fierce and fearless food for thought. So if you're hearing this, you're either a fierce or fearless woman, which means that you're an amalgamation of independence yet nurturing, who is navigating through a lot. Accepting and not fighting the reality of change is probably your biggest strength, and you don't know that yet. Marriage is huge. It's extremely tough and far from the reality of what we watch on TV shows and movies. But they're also a great source of strength and companionship. Let go of the idealist view of marriage that you think because it doesn't exist. Everyone has their own version of marriage, so make yours without preconceived notions and expectations. And we didn't touch enough upon this topic, but I think that as a woman, it's very important to be financially independent in a marriage and not a dependent human. And you will see the dynamics will change within that, because at the end of the day, asking someone for money is not a great experience, whether it's your parents, whether it's your partner, anyone. So if you can build a certain level of financial independence in you, you will see that the pressure on the marriage immediately gets relieved, because you can do what you want for yourself, you can do what you want for your child, and just start building that piggy bank. It really goes a long way as you go deeper into the think on marriage.
I like that, Sonali. That's interesting. I think the best thing about this entire podcast for me actually is like, this is like a mini therapy session.
Exactly.
Like every time we record something, because it's like it's just sharing. And actually, I feel like you and I are actually so different, which is bizarre, because we've been in the same like group scenarios, in and out of each other's like worlds, but not really the same at all in how we think and operate. And it's nice because to see different perspective, you learn from doing that. That's how you grow as a person. I think that my fierce and fearless food for thought today would be, I think it's important that your values as a couple, and even if your backgrounds are different, your experiences are different, at least there are some level where you agree on the way in which you want to bring up your children, the things that you want to expose them to, and the values that you want to teach them. And I think everything is a work in progress. We're like learning along the way. And I think that even as in a marriage of, I like to think that it's 20 years for me and Varun, because it just A, feels like that.
Wow.
And B, like I said, we grew up together and we learned and became people and individuals in the workplace, in a family life, in all aspects. And I think that I'm very aware with what I'm trying to transfer down. I find myself hiding a lot of things sometimes that I don't want my kids to see. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that I'm learning, and that's what the important thing is that all of this is a constant sort of process and journey of learning. Like everything is about realizing, okay, I'm in something uncomfortable, I can grow from this. And I think that as far as relationships go, because both Varun and I, he has been so involved in his own work. His work has changed and developed. So he as a person has changed and priorities. And at the same time, he's become a father very quickly, twice over in the last nearly 4 years now. It's been a really busy time. And I, for one, have been realized that I don't have any time now. And the time that I have, I want to have it with my children and push it to my children. So I think that I'm realizing that it's important that we need to take out time as a couple to also nurture our relationship. It's not easy to do so. And I think many couples like myself maybe have taken things for granted. And I think that it makes it harder. So finding time. And also, I think it's interesting that you said scheduling time, because I think that makes a lot of sense, actually, if you're in a busy world.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think it's also important that we need to also learn how to slow down in general in the lives that we're living. I think it's a whole different process for me at the moment. I think that I am putting more pressure on myself that is required. So taking time out and actually spending quality time with your companion or your best friend, in my case, is important, because kids are watching. That is what you are transferring to them. The importance of relationships, the importance of building strong relationships with the people around you requires you to take out focused, dedicated time that is not watching programs, that is not on your phone, that is not checking emails, that is not doing all of those things whilst trying to spend time together, if that makes sense. It's really about focused time. And I think that is something I am willing to work on. And if only my husband starts to listen to my podcast. He's not listening to them yet. He thinks he is. But see, that's what I mean. Because he'll be like, yeah, I listened to it. I'm like, so what did I talk about? And he'll be like, yeah. So exactly my point. So I think it's about finding that that quality time. And I think that is what I'm taking away from this, because I need to work on it myself.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. I think that was a good episode, and look forward for your feedback, guys.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
See you. Bye.
And that wraps up another episode of Fierce and Fearless. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey.
We hope you're going to walk away with some great insights, feel absolutely inspired, and ready to challenge norms. Come on then, just go and make your mark.
Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all our latest episodes. And if you loved what you heard today, please leave us a review.
And if you've got questions or you want us to discuss certain topics, just reach out to us. You can send us a message on our social media handles, Zoe Modgill or Feed Smart. We absolutely love hearing from you.
Until next time, stay fierce, stay fearless, and remember, every small step is part of your bigger journey.